Still trying to get used to doing that two finger stuff and mix it in with the other type frill and drop thumb stuff. It's funny too, because playing two finger style is how I first started playing a banjo when I was probably about, I don't know, 10 or 12 years old, somewhere in there. I didn't really know how you were supposed to play it. I was listening, what I had heard was bluegrass playing. I remember it was there was a tape, a neighbor had one of those country music, Columbia House or whatever, Gold and Country Gold or something like that. It had mostly just like a bunch of Merle Haggard, Johnny Cash song, just Glenn Campbell, Tammy Wynette, just classic country. But it had the Osborne brothers. They were playing Rocky Top on there, of course. And I thought it was a woman singing. And it had Foggy Mountain Breakdown, of course, Flat and Scruggs. And that was the only bluegrass songs on it. But I remember that's where I first heard any banjo playing. That's what got me interested in it. And then my cousin had this cassette tape. His grandma had it, rather. And it was a band called, let's see, the Magnolia Bluegrass Travelers, I believe is how it was called. And it was actually my bus driver that played mandolin in the band. And I got a copy of that and listened to it. And it was pretty cool. It was just regional, obviously, my bus driver and all, but they never were like on a big label or anything. So I was listening to that. And then this preacher, I was going to church, started going to church somewhere about that time. My mom and dad started going. And there was this preacher up there that had a little tenor banjo. And I've got that thing now. It was the first banjo I ever played. And so I was starting off completely, on the wrong foot to be playing what I was trying to play. I had a tenor banjo and I was playing with two fingers. Alright, I guess the camera went dead. Anyway, I was talking about when I first started learning to play, I was playing two finger style. I didn't know any better. I just thought that's probably what they were doing. And now but I was trying to play bluegrass. That's what I had heard. And so then another relative said, "Yeah, that sounds pretty good. It'll sound better whenever you get that third finger going in there." I was like, "Third finger?" He said, "Yeah, that's the way they do it. It's 3-finger style." So I got me another pick and put on there, and I walked around trying. It took me 2 or 3 days to get used to using that middle finger. And after that, though, I've done it that way for years and years. And somebody gave me a copy of that Earl Scruggs book. It talked about putting 2 fingers down. And I made that a habit. And at first, that was real weird. I had a hard time holding my ring finger down. All I wanted to hold down was my little finger, and the ring finger kept flopping around. But I finally got to where I could hold them both down. And as time went on, I've learned. It's just it's cool to be able to do that, but it's cool to be able to do a lot of different stuff too, from my opinion. And I don't know. I was a specialist for quite a while, but now I'm really trying to get more of a general practitioner kind of thing going on. I'm definitely wanting to do a lot more of the older styles. So I'm trying to revert back to a lot of that 2-finger stuff. And it's tricky. I find myself wanting to use 3 fingers. I find myself where I can play overhanded, or I can play like Pete Seeger stuff or I can play two finger, or I can play Scruggs stuff. But I'm having a little bit of difficulty seamlessly transitioning in and out of those different styles. I can do it, but it don't feel effortless yet. There still seems to be a little hitch sometimes. It's like changing gears or something. Grinding a little bit, trying to shift gears or whatever. But I'll get it. I'll just keep working on it and I'll get the hang of it. I find it difficult when I'm playing clawhammer to go into the two finger stuff. It's kind of like playing an acoustic guitar in a bluegrass band and taking a lead solo. It's like the bottom drops out of it, you know. I got all this rhythm sound going, and then all of a sudden I go into this little dinky two finger sound. I haven't quite got the dexterity or the balance or whatever. Maybe I just need to tone down my clawhammer rather than trying to bring the two finger up louder. But I'll figure it out. It'll all come together. It already is coming together as I've been experimenting more and more with it lately. And doing the upstroke like Pete Seeger stuff is way new to me. So I just started doing that. So I got a lot of practicing doing it. Right there was pretty easy to transition between the up picking and down overhand stuff, but now it would have been very difficult for me to switch into some two finger stuff right in the middle of that. But that's what's hardest for me. I'm getting to where it's pretty seamless between the up picking and the down overhand picking, but then to switch over into the two finger stuff or even three finger in the middle of that feels really awkward right now. If I start out doing that, it's pretty easy if I start out with that. But if I try to go from any of that, the down or the up into the two finger, I find it more difficult. Anyway, that's enough about that. I got a little bit more progress on this gourd banjo I've been working on. It's coming together. I made this wedge yesterday to hold the neck in place out of a piece of cedar. It fits in there pretty good. I still got this thing's the gourd, probably should cut this hole a little larger on the top where this gourd would sit down a little more level. It's kind of coming up, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of coming up on the back more. Which it might be alright. I may just wait. I'm waiting on one of those violin peg reamer deals come in the mail. I can put these holes in here tapered, and I'm just gonna put some old violin tuners in it that I already got. I'm not gonna sit there and whittle them or anything. I've already got a whole bunch of them, so I'm just gonna use them. I got a whole bag of them on eBay, like 20 of them for, I don't know, it was like $10 or $15. It wasn't much, and they look pretty cool. They're like these brown things. And out of some weird exotic wood. It's from China. Took forever to get them, but they wasn't very expensive. Hell of a lot easier than sitting there whittling the damn things. But anyway, I don't know. I think I'll put the strings on it first. I still got to make a nut and make a tail piece, I guess you'd call it. I'm gonna make a leather tail piece, I think. See if I can find an old piece of leather around here, an old belt or something. And anyway, after I get that, I got to make a bridge. I've got a bunch of regular bridges. I may just try one of them or something. One thing I did is this head, I ordered it on eBay. It's a piece of skin, and it was real white. So I just took the wood stain after it dried on here, stretched it on there and let it dry. I took some of that stain and put on there, and it looks like it did pretty good. It looks more fit. It just looked real weird, real white, kind of stood out, didn't really go with it. So anyway, I still got to drill the holes in it, put those tuners on there, put a nut on it, put a bridge on it, and put a tailpiece. And then I can find out if this damn thing's gonna work or not. And if it's too high back here, my plan is to just take a knife and whittle the top of that hole down some where this back will sit down further, and then I'll just make another wedge and put under the bottom of it, and that'll hold it. Another thing I'm going to do is drill a hole in here and put a small piece of wood, dowel rod, drill it all the way through this wedge into this neck, and put that dowel rod through there so it'll keep everything in place. I don't think I'm going to do anything like that on this end. That should be enough, really. Just one in that end should be plenty. It's not like I'm going to be swinging it all around or nothing. So I tried to do some of that Dave Macon stuff. That'd be different. On gourd banjo, you don't see people doing that very often. No reason not to. It's the same thing. But anyway, that's what I got done on that. And as far as this other old banjo that I just got, I've been fooling with it some. And in order to get that neck where it needs to be, this dowel rod needs to be about where I got it now, which is a lot further up towards the head than it was. The screws basically just sitting on the bottom of it. Now I've seen a guy on YouTube that made just took a metal bracket and put right there, attached it to the dowel rod, and then just bolted to the bracket. And that looked like a pretty good idea. The only real modification you'd have to do would be drilling a couple of small holes in this dowel rod and putting the screws in it. So that may be the direction I'm going to go with it. That seems like a pretty non-invasive way to go. But I'm still fooling around with it. You know, I got a good bit more angle on it now though, with it like that. But I'm gonna have to think about it and just keep fooling around with it, looking at it. It looks pretty good. We'll see how it turns out. One thing I noticed about it, this dowel rod's not perfectly straight, and apparently that's the way it was made from a factory, which is kind of weird. I didn't know they. Like if I look at it from right here and I look at the tail piece and the neck, it's not straight. The dowel rod's coming this way at an angle, and it has to go to where if you put it on the tail piece, right in the middle of the tail piece. It's weird, man. I don't know why they made it like that. That's the way they made it. Oh well, I'm just going to reattach it like it is. I'm not going to try to straighten that up, only because I would have to do some serious modification to this rim. I'd have to move the tailpiece over. All the hooks would be misplaced. This is the way they made it, apparently. Weird. It's very weird. I don't know. It could be that this dowel rod needs trimming a little, and try to straighten it out and tilt the neck more that way, and that would line it up a little better. So I'm going to have to just study on that. If anybody has had any experience with that, let me know in the comments. I'd sure like to get this thing going. I don't got a lot of money in it. It was pretty cheap eBay buying. I'm sure I can get it working, playable, but I'd like to get it as good as I can as well, not just playable, but get it as perfect as I can get it. So if anybody's had any experience with that, let me know. The 5th string tuner, I tried to glue it together with super glue, and I've got it over here. That was a fail. As you can see, it crumbled all the pieces again, so I'm just gonna have to replace it. But that's not a big deal. I've actually got some of those old buttons like that in there to go right on it, I'm pretty sure. The bridge that was on it was, you know, convex or whatever, concave, quite a bit from just sitting on that old head being loose. So I got that flattened back out on the rasp. I took the bottom and the top down, and it was, since the strings are so high anyway, that'll help the strings go down a little. So I think if I put one of those brackets on that dowel rod, I'm pretty doggone sure that the string height will be about right. It looked like it would be about right where I got it sitting right now. So really, I mean, I'm just waiting on a head to come in the mail. I'll pop that on there, and then I'll start seeing what'll happen. All right, that's enough for today. I've been babbling now for about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. I better get off here. Have a good day.